Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the Gupta Empire, a legendary dynasty often called India's Golden Age. We're going to look at how it soared to incredible heights and what ultimately brought it crashing down.
But, what does that golden age tag actually mean, and how on earth did this amazing period of wealth and innovation rise from the ashes of a completely shattered political landscape?
All right, so to really get the Gupta story, we've got to rewind a bit. See, after the great Mauryan Empire fell, India wasn't this one unified place. Nope, it was more like a patchwork quilt of smaller kingdoms, all kind of vying for power.
And here's the thing, the Gupta's entire story, their incredible rise, and even their eventual fall, it all hinges on just one single word.
And that word is feudatory. Think of it like a kingdom within a kingdom. You're a powerful emperor, you conquer some new territory. But instead of trying to run it all yourself, you let the local kings stay on the throne. All they have to do is pay you tribute and promise to have your back. Simple, right?
Now, this was a huge change from the old Mauryan Empire, which was super centralized, like everything was controlled from the top down. The Guptas? They did the exact opposite. They built their empire on this decentralized network of feudatories. It was a completely different playbook for how to run things. And this is the kicker. The Guptas didn't just invent this system, they were a product of it. Get this, they actually started out as minor feudatory rulers themselves, serving the Kushan Empire. But as the Kushan started to decline, the Guptas saw their chance, and well, they took it.
So from these really smart beginnings, a new dynasty was born, and it was led by this string of seriously ambitious and brilliant rulers who were going to take this little kingdom and turn it into a massive empire. Okay, so while the whole thing was technically founded by a guy named Sri Gupta, these five are the heavy hitters who really built the empire. You've got Chandragupta the first kicking things off, pulling the core territories together. But then came the real game changer. That was his son, Samudragupta. This guy was such a relentless and frankly brilliant military commander that historians much later gave him a pretty epic nickname, the Napoleon of India. And he earned it. He just launched his absolute whirlwind of military campaigns in every single direction. He crushed 9 kings up in the Gangetic Valley, subdued kingdoms in the forests of central India, and marched all the way south, defeating 12 more rulers. He didn't just build an empire, he basically stormed it into existence. Now, his son, Chandragupta II, was a different kind of leader. Less brute force, more brilliant strategy. He played the long game. First, he made a super smart move. He married his daughter into the powerful Vakataka kingdom, securing them as allies. Then, with that alliance in his back pocket, he turned around and crushed his biggest rivals, the Western Shakas. And why was that so important? Because it gave him control over their incredibly valuable sea trade routes. Just a brilliant, brilliant play.
So you see, it's this combination of raw military power and just plain clever diplomacy that ushered in this long period of stability and incredible wealth. And this is the era that really earns that title, the Golden Age.
So what exactly made it golden? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was like a perfect storm. You had flourishing trade with places like Rome and Persia, which brought in a ton of money. That money then fueled this incredible explosion in art and architecture and science. And on top of all that, this is when world-famous universities like Nalanda were founded, drawing in the brightest minds from all over Asia.
But you know how it goes. What goes up must come down. And ironically, the very system that allowed the Guptas to grow so fast and run things so well, that decentralized feudatory system, well, it also held the seeds of its own destruction.
The empire was basically getting squeezed from two sides. From the outside, you had these constant, brutal invasions by the Hunas, which were draining the empire's money and its military. And then, on the inside, that whole system of powerful local rulers, the feudatories, it was starting to seriously backfire.
See, as long as the Gupta emperor at the center was strong, everyone played along. The feudatories stayed loyal. But the second the central government started to look weak from all those wars, what do you think happened? Those local rulers, who had their own armies and their own power, they just said, you know what, we're out. And they declared independence. The whole network just started to unplug itself, one piece at a time.
So the end of the empire wasn't like one big dramatic event. It was more like a slow crumbling. An empire built on a network of personal loyalties just dissolved. It fragmented from the inside out, piece by painful piece.
And that really brings us to the central paradox of the whole Gupta Empire. That decentralized model, it was fantastic for rapid expansion, and it didn't cost a lot to run. But the price you pay for that is weak central control. The powerful local rulers that the system depends on can just leave. And that's exactly what happened. The very thing that made them so successful in the beginning was their ultimate undoing.
So the story of the Guptas leaves us with this huge, fascinating question that's still relevant today, right? When you're trying to build something that lasts, whether it's an empire or even a company, is it better to keep all the power tightly